Hi guys, welcome to the latest podcast of YarninBlak. Today I've got a great mate of mine on called Jack. I'll introduce you to Jack in a moment. But first I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm currently calling you from. I'm here in Melbourne on the land of the Wurundjeri people, and I'd like to pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. And I'd like to acknowledge any other Aboriginal people here today and all the Aboriginal listeners that we actually have on YarninBlak. But really important, my friend Jack, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So I won't do any introduction of you. I'll get you to introduce yourself. So tell us who you are and where you're from.
Yeah, sure. I'm Jack James, or Jakob James. I'm a proud Gundungurra Koori from the East Coast originally. I've been calling Gundungurra or Perth home now for almost 10 years. And yeah, I've worked in or across not-for-profit, government, representing and uplifting our mob.
Awesome. Now tell us a little bit about where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small place called Tumbarumba in the foothills of the Snowy Mountains. Um, prefer not to remember it, but
Yeah, that's all right.
it's a town of probably 2,500, I think, from memory. Um, and it's probably one of the last towns heading towards the ski fields of Mount Selwyn for getting petrol and so forth.
Yeah.
Has the largest timber mill under the Southern Hemisphere,
Oh, wow.
has a prison, which is a minimum security, they call it a farm.
Oh, that
Um,
must be the selling point.
yeah. I think it's like they go there for their last 12 months of their sentence to learn a trade to try and help them regenerate back into community.
Yeah. So from the East Coast, did you study over here on this side?
I did, yeah. So
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in Canberra actually.
Oh, yeah.
um, and all around the East Coast. And it wasn't until the end of 2017 that I'd already committed to coming across here because my sister was here. She was going through some hard stuff with a separation, and my father had already come across, so it made sense for me to come over here too. I did have two rules in my life. I would never live near the ocean,
Yeah.
um, and I would never live on the West Coast. And I've broken both of
You
them,
prove.
but I'm glad I did.
So tell people, what do you do now?
Yeah, sure. So I used to work in evaluation and monitoring with a national not-for-profit. I won't name them because I haven't
Yeah.
spoken to them. But working with mob across the nation, um, and helping them support them through projects. Was involved in quite a few evaluation projects outside of that. So monitoring evaluation. I'll say that I'm an evaluation specialist when it comes to evaluating stuff for First Nations from a First Nations perspective. And I actually wrote what was the word they called it? It was a paper, but it was like 18, no, 30 pages long, around the holistic version of how to evaluate rather than quantitative and or
Oh,
qualitative data. It was like a combination.
yeah.
Positions paper, that's what they called it, the positions paper.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of people hounding me to see whether I wanted to do my PhD, and I'm like, I'm not into the white ways of doing things, so no.
Yeah. So let's go back to the eastern side for a second.
Yeah,
You grew up and went to school on the in eastern. Yep. Did you
I
end up
did.
finishing?
Yeah.
Did you finish year 12?
Look, I didn't. In the end, I did. So I did an apprenticeship.
Yep.
I did later go back through TAFE and do 11 and 12, but not
Yep.
in the context of in a classroom. I struggled in school,
Yep.
both for being openly gay and people questioning my Aboriginality because of the color of my skin.
Yeah. So that was like hitting two minorities there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So while you're at school, did you ever dream of wanting to be something?
Yeah, look, I've always been in roles where I help people. So I've owned a driving school. I had a business where I was supporting people through tech and small business setups and real entrepreneur really. But as I've always just been a big person around advocacy in general.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't want to be a lawyer.
Do you want to be a lawyer? Nah.
Didn't want to be a lawyer. But I did sort of want to work within that sort of realm, which I did for a bit. So, yeah.
So what was your first job?
First job, I was an apprentice baker
Ah,
in the next town over, which was interesting because it's snow country. So in the winter, driving that 35 minutes in the snow at night was great because I think if you're going to learn to drive, learn in the most harshest conditions, right? Because if you can do that, you can drive anywhere.
yeah. And I think what people forget about bakers is that they're up at like at 3 o'clock in the morning because
Yeah.
you've got to have bread and stuff on the shelves by 6 o'clock when people are out walking doing their shopping.
Yeah, so we actually started at like 11 at night.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and we didn't finish until I think my shifts would finish about 8:30, but
Yeah.
we had to have the first load for the van ready by 5:30.
Ah, okay. So
So,
they're picked up
yeah,
and then delivered.
yeah, yeah.
Ah, wow.
So that yeah, we delivered to it was in Batlow, so we delivered to Adelong, Tumut, my hometown Tumbarumba, and I think we even went to Gundagai. So it was
Oh wow. That's a
a
quite a big.
decent, yeah, it was quite a long reach.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if the bakery's still there, but they did really well, and then they built it up over the time that I was there. So initially we just had it like one run, and then all of a sudden, yeah, we had these other runs, and
Yeah. And
come
did you finish
Easter,
the
it
apprenticeship?
was. I didn't. I
Oh,
actually
okay.
didn't.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. I think I got a third year,
Okay. Yeah.
um, and then I had some health issues come up, and so I took some time out, and then they were in a situation they were struggling financially, and so they were in a position to really keep me, and I had to find an alternative, and I just went, I can't be stuffed.
Yeah. And is that when you went back to year 11 or 12?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So then I did that. I did that while working as well in like the local pub.
Yeah.
I've always been someone who needs to just study, I think. Like when I'm working full time, I'm like right now I'm studying as well as working full time. Um, and yeah, I think I just wanted to complete it for the sake to say that I did it. It wasn't that I wanted it or needed it,
Yeah.
but it was just to show that, I completed it.
Yeah. I personally didn't finish year 10. And then I got into nursing
Yeah.
by just with my year 10 certificate. And when I was 22, I rocked up at the university at Swinburne and enrolled in year 11. They said I don't need to do year 11 because I'm too old, but I can go back and
Yeah.
do year 12. So I did year 12 at
Yeah.
23 after doing nursing. So I know what it's like to go
Wow.
back.
Yeah.
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 Um, so while you were studying, is that when you thought about going to university or TAFE continuing on?
Yeah. Like it was, I just sort of, I'll be honest, my family were like, you never ever finish anything that you start, you never finish it. And I was like, you know what, just gonna go and do it just to get them off my back because,
Yeah.
both situations were out of control. Um, had I tried to stay on at school originally, it just wasn't viable. Like I was brutally bashed, thrown down a staircase. Like I just didn't want to be there, and I had no support from the teachers. The principal basically said it was easier for me to be removed or me to leave than it was to deal with the bullies.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
yeah,
a shame, and I'm sorry you went through that.
yeah,
I want to ask you a question. Do you think the bullying and homophobic behaviours still continue today, or you think they're a little bit different at
Um,
schools?
Look, so in the last few years, I've actually supported quite a few local Aboriginal queer mob here in
Yeah.
WA, and I'd like to say that it's changed, but they've just changed their tactic.
Mm.
Instead of being physical, it's more emotional abuse,
Yeah.
and it's targeted through, social media, through gaming apps,
Yeah.
just, like it's and sometimes I think the psychological is a lot harder to heal from because their scars don't, they're not scars that heal like a physical wound.
Yeah.
But look, I think it's definitely still rife, and it's quite sad because it is both you call it intersections that they're being targeted for. They're not just being targeted for being black. They're not just being targeted for being queer, as they like to identify.
Yeah.
It's what supports are out there for them
Yeah.
when they can't even get the heterosexual bullying under control. What hope do they have with mob and queer mob at that? Like it's just yeah.
Yeah. Now, I won't traumatize you about going back
No,
to
no, it's
school,
fine.
but
Yeah,
I got one other question about school though, is how much
sure.
Aboriginal issues were taught at school? What do you remember being taught?
We weren't really taught anything, and I mean, I come from a family. Um, so my great grandmother had to denounce her Aboriginality after some issues of being left as a single mother of three and leaving her children with her parents in order to get a job.
Yeah.
And that would have been in the 40s. And so it created a lot of, I won't say shame, but my nan was just so scared to identify. Right up until the referendum was the first time she really admitted it when she cried and said, I really thought I'd see something change for our people in my lifetime. And she actually passed away only 4 months after that. But
Wow.
it was hidden from our family for quite a while. I was not long into high school when a great auntie slipped up in front of me and mentioned it because I was talking about my friend who, and it was funny, I was always drawn to having friends that were First Nations,
Yeah.
and also the underdogs of the community. And she said, "Oh, that's because you're black." And I was like, "Hang on," I said, "What?" And so that's when I started to learn about it. But
Yeah.
it wasn't a thing I could ask with my family. Just go off and ask them. But it took me a few years to realise and really get to the bottom of our history and stuff. But there wasn't really anything in school other than it spoke about they were originally here. What else did it say? Basically, that they lived out in the bush. It was none of it was accurate, but
Yeah.
they pushed and pushed, settlement and colonial ideology, and it just much like religion, it actually made me against it or push against it
Yeah.
because it wasn't taught. There was no alternative. You had to sit through the falsities of history. You couldn't opt out. You couldn't opt out of religion classes. Like it was pretty horrific. And even now, you speak to someone and like they've lived here all their life and they don't even understand anything about First Nations. And like they're 27, lived here most of their life, but they're Jewish and they have not a clue about our history.
Yeah. What is it that you like to teach people about Aboriginal people in this country?
My favourite thing is when they go on and tell you to get over it, it was years ago. And then I happily tell them that if it wasn't for the fact that my mother's family hid their identity, that my mother wouldn't have had the same education that she had. And that it wasn't that long ago because they stopped taking children in the late 70s. You know, like, I don't understand how they can say that, because would they like me to say that about Anzac Day? Like, get over it, it was years ago. Like, I respect Anzac Day, I respect that, and they should respect, you know, our history. But yeah, it is an eye opener for them when I tell them that, because they assume, you know, it was many years ago.
Yeah, I think I get the same thing in the trainings that I do about people not realizing that the stories that are being told, or well, another way I say it is that a lot of the transgenerational trauma is coming from people that actually lived through these experiences, because the elders in our community, many
Yeah,
of them were born before the 1967 referendum, when they weren't even counted in the census, and those people are alive today.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
not from 100 years ago. It's not
No,
from 3 or 4
no.
generations. It's from the living elders in our community right this minute.
Yeah, I think so. I was lucky enough to work over here. One of my main jobs that I worked in was the team leader for Link Up.
Oh yeah,
So the Stolen Gen here, and getting to, you know, meet with and talk to some of those elders and hearing their stories and seeing how they handle it. Like, if that was me, I think I would be angry, but they're willing to work through it. Like, I just admire it so much, how the majority of them are able to not be angry and understand that that was what happened, and where it's about healing now. But I don't know if I could do that if that was me. I just don't.
yeah. Now, if a young person said to you, "Hey, I just found out I'm Aboriginal. I want to find out more," where would
Yeah.
you suggest they might start that journey?
Yeah, I think um, basically trying to look at the history, trying to get it like a bit of a mud map of their family, of where they think that goes through, and then go and yarn with one of the elders, specifically if they're from that area, because they're going to know the bloodlines, they're going to know the connections.
Mm.
But it is, yeah, it's a hard one. I mean, once you've got that sort of bit of an idea, then you can start that trace, because the biggest one for me I found is marriage certificates and death certificates, but no birth certificate.
Yeah,
That's a dead giveaway. And that was a big eye opener for me, because I actually had to do all that. It's not ideal that I am the knowledge holder of my family, given that I've got older uncles and my mother and everything, but I was the one that done all of that research, and it's not easy.
no,
Um, but yeah, for a young one, I think the first thing is to be proud if that's who you are, and then go on that journey, speak to elders, have a yarn. They might be able to help them do that tracking to see,
yeah,
you know, where they link in.
yeah. Is there anything that people should be aware of if they're working with young queer mob? Um, because I know that there's, and it sounds really weird, but there's guidelines how to work with Aboriginal people, and there's guidelines how to work with LGBTIQ plus, and there's guidelines of working with people with disability. But if you're actually inter part of an intersectionality of that,
Yeah.
is there any particular tips or strategies to work with the young gay mob that you would actually suggest?
Yeah, look, the biggest one I think is, um, don't assume their gender, because, you know, we don't know how they identify. Um, don't ask prying questions. Wait for them to give them the space to want to yarn with you, to build that trust, because for mob, it's all about building a trust relationship before you can do anything. But just understand that they're walking in the two worlds, because they're probably being rejected from both, unfortunately, due to
Yeah,
religion forced on us through colonisation. We've got a lot of elders that are obsessive around the male female process only, Um, but yeah, build that trust, and then open the door to yarning. But before that, it's not like you would with a non-Aboriginal person and just be like asking, straight up questions, because that's just going to push them away quicker.
Yeah. See, I know you've worked in mainstream government side and you've worked with mob. What do
Yeah,
you prefer?
definitely not for profit.
Yeah.
Um, what I discovered in government was I was their tick box, or they thought I was their tick box because I don't look Aboriginal, but I am Aboriginal. I am acknowledged. So they look good, but they weren't planning on the fact that when they wanted me to do things that were not appropriate, I just bluntly refused. Bluntly refused. I called them out on stuff, probably a bit more than probably with someone with more visible than me would feel comfortable. But having a background in First Nations or Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander legal advocacy, I learned pretty quick that you need to have a voice on things, because if you don't speak up, no one else is gonna. So I was glad to get out of government, and because they're having that 50D at the end of your title, it's actually quite disgusting. Like I'm more than that 50D piece of my identity. I'm a human with lived experience, yes, but I'm still I'm still a human being. I'm not. Oh, you're a human being with lived experience and you're Aboriginal. Like, yeah, not for profit. You're straight into the cause. It's all about, you're not there for the money. You're definitely not there for the money. You're there for the cause.
Yeah. Some reason I didn't get into Aboriginal affairs for the money, that's for sure.
Yeah.
If I haven't seen it. But isn't it true that we get all that we get all this stuff for free?
Oh yeah, right. I'm still waiting for my car, my house. I had to correct someone even just the other day at a lunch, and they were a young kid, and I was like, "That's not true." He tried to say that First Nations get more money than everyone else from Centrelink, and I was like, "What?" I said, "No." I said it's called a different name so that they can statistically work out where the money's going and how much of the money's going where. And then he was like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "There's other people that get a lot more a lot more money other than First Nations." I said, "If you're talking about royalties, that's a different thing, and that's
Yeah.
just isolated to family groups in those areas, and it's the entitlement money for what they're doing to that to the country." And he was very intrigued, but I didn't want to, I don't know, blow his mind in one little sitting. But look, if it opened a door for him to do some research, it's good.
Yeah. And I always say to people when they go, we get all this stuff for free. I always go, look, next Tuesday I've got the day off. If you can write it all down for me about all my free stuff and where I can pick it up, that's where I'll be on Tuesday, picking it all
Yeah.
up.
That reminds me of the black comedy skit where the person's lining up. I don't know if you've seen it, and they're getting their black starter kit. It's got
Oh, yes. Yes. And the tea bags
yeah,
for talking to the aunties and yeah.
yeah. Oh, it made me laugh. Like satire, a comedy. I think. Look, it has its place definitely, because it just helps us laugh it off rather than living with the trauma of it it's on a daily basis. People don't realize, like, actually had someone from Geraldton on Easter put up a video on Facebook of some young Bob running around. They had sticks, they were swearing, and it was, all the comments were so racist on it. There was maybe mine, which was ripping into them, and another person ripping into them. But it was just like, oh, look at these monkeys running around. Oh, look how far they've evolved. They're still running around trying to deal with things with sticks and rocks. And I was just like, this is disgusting. So
Mm,
disgusting. And then one guy tried to come at me because I told him they were racist pigs. Um, And he basically told me to get over it and realize I need to realize that white is the most superior race. And
Oh
I
my
just,
gosh.
yeah, we had fun for the whole day. I'm very quick witted, so
Yeah.
and it helped me that his last name was Pigeon, so I used AI to create a few pictures of the day he landed and his wedding, and
Yeah.
just taking the Mickey out of him because I was like, I'm not going to let you think you're going to get a rise out of me.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. It's just, and I feel like since the failed referendum, it's like a green light for them all of a sudden to, oh well, we can be racist now.
Yeah.
Like
I
it's
agree with
crazy.
you. I think I've seen more racism and more active uh, out there kind of racism actually occurring
Yeah,
since the no vote,
yeah,
if that makes sense.
yeah.
Um, so you also run a bit of a consultancy business that you've started.
Yeah, look,
Yeah.
I used to. It's gone on the back burner now because I
Okay.
have changed roles.
Yeah.
I have a big passion in cybersecurity and business analysis, which is what I'm actually
Yeah.
studying at the moment. But yeah, so that was I went through a phase where I just wanted to put it out there to help those that can't afford to evaluate and monitor an idea, you
Yeah.
know, and then direct them in the right direct or send them in the right direction with who can help them again free because everything these days is about money, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Question: how do you maintain culture within yourself?
For me, so I have my little, I've got my cultural corner,
Hmm?
and I regularly speak to the elders here. Have regular yarns with a couple of them that I grew close with through working at Link Up. Um, and I'm involved in, it's called Taking Black the Rainbow, um, which is a queer mob initiative, First Nations queer mob initiative that Tanisha Bennell, actually, if you haven't spoken to her, I need to link you up with her. She's
Yeah.
amazing. Where we all get together as a group and we can openly talk as queer mob. Other than that, because for me, my country's on over on the east, we actually don't have someone that lives there that would know our because we were seven generations or so on
Yeah.
Ngarigo Country. So trying to track that down past the acknowledgement of Aboriginality opposed to proof of Aboriginality
Yeah.
it would be a real challenge. So when I came over here, I immersed myself in culture here.
Yeah.
Very quickly was accepted. And while it's not my own bloodline culture, for me at least, I'm practicing learning culture here.
Yeah. So besides Perth, have you lived in any other capital city?
So where else have I lived? So Canberra. Wasn't really involved in Canberra. I lived in Sydney and wasn't really involved there. Other than that, small country towns and overseas for a little bit. But yeah, not really. But I have experienced through my current employer and my previous job as a senior community development officer. I did get to go to Aranda Country, so Alice Springs, and one of the people I was meeting with was a local elder who took me on country and showed me country, which was beautiful experience.
Yeah.
Really blessed with that. So I have experienced other cultures, so other nations cultures,
Yeah.
and I do think it's if you're welcomed into it, it's definitely an experience you need to embrace for sure.
Question: when you first left your country little town and you went to a big
Yeah.
city for the first time, what sort of culture shock did you kind of have when you realized there was more out there besides a small country town.
Oh wow, it was like going to a smorgasbord, an all-you-can-eat smorgasbord. To be honest, there was, like the shops were open past 5 o'clock. You could get
Yeah.
petrol after 5 o'clock. You didn't have to drive an hour and 10 to get a burger. Um, it was a massive eye opener,
Yeah.
and I loved it for the most part. Um,
Yeah.
it was very isolating though, because while it was a big city, I hardly knew many people, and I was used to everyone knowing my business back home.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah, I think accessibility was massive, and I can see the draw card for, you know, um, mob living up north to want to come to Perth, and but then fallen by the wayside because there's so much influence around.
Yeah.
And I was not much better. Like there was bad influence around for me in the early days, which we all play our part in it. But I was lucky enough to have a strong mind and not fall into the cracks. But yeah, like there's just, I don't know, just availability. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah. I think that people have told me they come from small country towns, they go to the big city for the first time. It can be quite overwhelming to go, oh my God, this is huge. And I think you described it really well
Yeah,
I can get a picture of this person just arriving and go, oh my God, look, everything's alive, where at 5 o'clock everything's shut.
yeah, like just the big buildings and
Yeah.
so many people and cars, and you've gone from waving to everyone that you see on the road or in the street and saying hello to people just pushing past like you're invisible. It was so while there was accessibility, the lack of visibility of yourself. So
Yeah.
it was a learning curve.
Yeah. What do you love most about living in Western Australia and living in Perth?
I love that I get to watch the sunset over the beach, which is literally 5 blocks from me now. Um,
For someone who said they didn't want to live near the beach.
yeah, yeah, right. So
Yeah.
I remember my first sunset, and that's what sold it for me. I was like a little kid in a lolly shop. Like I was just in awe. And the person that had taken me was just like, "What are you talking about? It's just a sunset." I'm like, "No, it's not. This is like amazing," because I'm very creative and artistic. Love my photography. So
A question I ask all my guests is that if I had a magic wand and $1 zillion and I gave you that wand and with all that amount of money and said you could fix something in Aboriginal affairs, where would you want to fix? Where would you want to start?
oh, that's a good one. I think I'm not a big fan of, even though I've studied native title through my diploma of ATSLA, um, I still feel like it causes a lot of problems because you have to have 62 different documents of evidence, white ways, to prove that it was yours first, even
Yeah.
though they've got no proof it was theirs, that's currently theirs. But I think, yeah, looking at that, and um, that's a tricky one. But I think there needs to be. Do you know what? I think changing the law system so that we could have like a circle court for mob where the elders are the people that are making the determinations for us, and not a judge with no understanding, because we're getting people locked up for the most simplest thing, and all they do is aggravate it in front of the charge to make it a much larger sentence outcome. So I think, yeah, I think that's where the money I would like to spend it is a restructure of the law, the legal system for First Nations, so it's a separate process and a more fairer process, because we are so overrepresented.
Yeah.
especially here in WA.
Yeah. And you know how much I love your work. I'm always following you on social media. I love your posts.
They're-
I, they're very thought provoking.
yeah,
And sometimes I can see the responses, and I will agree with you. Some of the responses that you do get on there aren't as helpful.
yeah, yeah.
Um, is that so? Please keep up the work that you do because I love what you do.
Thank you.
But I also want to ask you, what would you like people to walk away with from our yarn this afternoon?
Yeah, I think if walk away from this knowing that just because people say you're not doesn't mean you're not, because living in that world of being look too white to be black and too white to be black enough.
Yeah,
Still be proud of who you are. Be respectful of your elders and whatnot, but still have a voice and maybe speak to them when you've got things going on, to see if you can help. They can help you start a movement, because I think have a voice. If you don't, like I said earlier, if you don't speak up and say something, and this is on any matter at all, if you don't, who will?
yeah,
Like, if you know how hard it is for you to experience it, then would you really want someone else to go through that? Like, it's not, too many people say it's not my problem, I don't care, like a car alarm going off in the street, they walk past it. That's another thing that I struggled with in the cities was, I couldn't not do something or help. So yeah, don't isolate yourself from everyone else's issues, but also look after yourself in the sense of don't take on fights that aren't
yeah,
yours to fight at the same time.
yeah.
Pick your battles, that's the word.
Pick the
Pick
battles.
your
Yeah.
battles.
Which just reminds me of another question I've got is what do you like to do in your downtime?
My downtime is spent studying, but no, look, I'm a big tech head, and I just got the first birthday present from my mum that I've ever had that wasn't cash in 15 years,
Oh,
because I'm so hard to buy for, right? And
yeah,
so she'd seen me looking at VR headsets, and I am just amazed with what you can do with the virtual reality world. Um, so that's what I'm spending my time doing now. But anything creative, anything artistic, creating music, photography, anything that helps me escape the troubles of the world's reality,
yeah, yeah,
which is why I'm liking the idea of this virtual reality, and I don't have to think about Trump or wars or anything like that.
yeah. Look, I want to say thank you for hanging with me. As I said, I love the work that you do. Please keep it up. Guys, I want to thank Jack for joining us today, and I'll see you guys at the next podcast. And thanks, Jack.
Thanks, AJ.